Or actually, I can just chop it up. So I'll just start again. What's up, everybody? It's PICHAEL with League of Items. Today I am joined by the one and only MCSCRAG, the former head coach of Clutch Gaming and the current head coach of Yale, where I'm one of his analysts and assistant coaches. No official title, but that's because I'm enigmatic and impossible to lock into a box. Isn't that correct?
Very correct.
Great. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Michael. How are you?
I'm fine. I just ate Chick-fil-A, so I'm kind of jacked up right now. Anyways, before and after our practices, before and after our games, we talk about professional League of Legends. We talk about the meta. A lot of the stuff that I have on my channel, from like a DFS and betting perspective, is informed by our conversations. And Brendan knows a ton about the North American professional scene since he was the head coach, and he knows a lot of the people that are involved still to this day. So, Brendan, first question: what percentage of people are still active from your time in the pro scene?
It's a good question. I would say maybe 80 to 90%, somewhere in there. I think most of the players are still the same. Some of the new players, if there are any, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, would be from Academy, and then there's a few new imports, like in mid jungle. But yeah, it's like 3, 4, maybe 5 players anyone new.
Yeah. Do you think that's weird? Do you think that's like a bad thing? That there's not a lot of turnover?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot of players in the LCS in North America who, they kind of just make it. You know, they kind of do the bare minimum
Yeah.
and have a job because there's not a lot of alternatives, and for kind of a million different reasons, the new talent just doesn't surface that quickly or quickly enough for 10 teams.
Sure. So, do you think that's like an organizational level problem, or do you think that's a talent problem?
Yeah, I mean, that's a kind of the age-old question in North America. I think it's like anything, it's a mixture. Um, I think it's definitely kind of a cultural problem at NA, a talent problem. We have a smaller player base. We have worse practice. I think I'm definitely a believer in solo queue in North America being a big part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I buy into that. I've seen it firsthand with professional players trying to practice on solo queue and just having a miserable time.
Yeah.
Um, and I think uh, that's going to just be with us forever. I don't think there's like a quick, easy fix for that.
Hmm.
And also, I think for whatever reason, there's not like a lot of cultural support for what we do in North America compared to places like Korea and China. So, um, if typically with young players, I would say definitely greater than 50% of the time, it's a bit of a battle with parents
Yeah. Sure.
to get them to kind of understand,
Yeah.
what their child is doing is a real thing they
Not a
can do.
complete
And
waste of time.
exactly. So it's all these things, right?
Yeah.
Plus everything else, like there's just random chance, right?
Yeah.
Um, you know, like when you have a smaller player base, like the chances of a phenomenal player coming out of those numbers is just lower.
Yeah. Can you speak to
Statistically
that
lower.
number? Do you know what the difference is between North America compared to a place like Europe?
I don't know the number off the top of my head anymore.
Yeah.
I think the last time I looked was maybe in like 2018, but
Sure.
I'd be actually curious to see what that is now.
Yeah.
For
So,
sure.
speaking to like the perception of League of Legends and stuff like that. Basically, in the DFS community, League of Legends kind of came out of nowhere because of coronavirus. Like, it was already on the website, but DraftKings like needed to have contests out there for people to like bet on and stuff. So a lot of people started watching League of Legends for that reason. And everyone's perception was like, oh, a bunch of fat nerds playing video games, a bunch of losers. Like, why would anybody want to watch this? But as time has gone on, I think a lot of people have really liked it. And even when all the traditional sports come back, I think we've found a lot of a much larger audience. Well, not a much larger audience, but a larger audience, because like the betting community, I think, is actually going to get behind League of Legends in the long term. But let's get into the North American League itself. And basically, what we're gonna do is go through the matches from last week. Like, we're not gonna break down anything in this video, but it'll just be like the jumping off point for ranking all of these teams, and like just getting some information about how you think about them. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
All right, cool. So first, we have 100 Thieves and Evil Geniuses. So when this was the first match of the split, and Evil Geniuses was a 65% favorite, minus 182, over 100 Thieves, plus 138. I picked Evil Geniuses because I'm not a complete moron, and I was correct. So, Brendan, before the match started, were you in agreement with me that Evil Geniuses would win that match, and why?
Absolutely. I think Evil Geniuses outclass 100 Thieves on a fair basis, and like I think 100 has been really plagued by teamwork issues, I think, for a long time. And for whatever reason, even through multiple different coaching staffs and multiple different rosters, I still see the same play style from them over and over again, which is like they prefer to just play like old school Korean style League of Legends, where if you don't die, you win the game, and just play safe and scale, and then just get that one tide turning team fight late game. Um, but that is just not the way the game's played anymore. It hasn't been for many years.
Yeah,
And
not even Korea plays
uh,
that way anymore.
yeah, and in a region like North America, you can definitely get wins playing that way, especially versus the weaker teams. You can stay middle of the pack and sometimes even have some upsets.
Mm-hmm.
If one of the more progressive and aggressive teams um, makes a mistake that you capitalize on, but they're never going to win everything. And I think a team like Evil Geniuses is probably like the proto Cloud9 right now. I think they understand the game at the same level that Cloud9 does, and are able to execute it not quite as well. I think they don't have quite as good players as Cloud9. Uh, they kind of see the formula and are able to replicate it.
Yeah. So you in that explanation of 100 Thieves, you brought up like the old ideas about like Korea. So could you explain Korea versus China real quick for people who might not understand like the distinction between those two play styles?
Sure, and with any generalization, of course, there's exceptions, but going back even like 5, 6 years, uh, the LPL was sort of seen as this region where you know players just fight, teams just fight constantly. They don't give any thought to uh, sort of like tactical positioning. And, I'm trying to think of like words that might be better for people who are kind of new to the game. But they don't pay attention to sort of like what is the perfect move to make in this situation. They just attack, attack, attack,
Yeah, they're not thinkers,
and
they're doers.
right. And Korea, on the other hand, extreme was always like traditionally a very clean region. Their um, game philosophy revolved around just never taking risks that might introduce too much variance and sort of open you up to making a mistake. And if you never make a mistake, then how do you lose the game, right? That's sort of the philosophy. But also, if you never try to do anything, how do you win a game?
Yeah.
That's kind of, I think, where sort of people left that philosophy behind. And China has kind of stayed true to their philosophy. I think Korea has been forced to adapt in the past couple of years, but yeah, China is definitely the more dominant region now, and I think that's a large part of it. It's also just better for your players. It's like, uh, I mean, not
It's
sure this is the best sports analogy, but like if you've got a baseball player who never tries to hit a home run,
yeah, then
well,
yeah.
then they're never going to be any good at hitting a home run, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
It's like the Wayne Gretzky quote, like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take or something like that. Yeah, did you ever hear
right,
about that?
yeah,
Yeah. But
yeah,
like on The Office, that's like a meme. It's like
sure,
you miss all the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott. um, but yeah, so just before we move on from the China versus Korea thing, the one thing I think that's kind of misunderstood at this point by the public in general in North America is that China, the best teams right now in China are more like if we take the old concept of China and Korea, I would say they're definitely not the old China. They're somewhere closer to Korea in terms of like understanding the significance of macro, and it's like their unfiltered aggression is kind of has been reimagined. So there is that extreme amount of aggression because players are more intelligent and able to identify when they're stronger than the enemy. So instead of like playing to a specific point in the game, like projecting 10 minutes into the game, they're always looking for an advantage to take away, as opposed to waiting until a certain time to start looking for advantages. And I think that's really what has caused a big problem in North America, is that everyone is so afraid of making a mistake that they're not willing to put themselves into a 50-50 in a professional match, which makes them waste like 10 to 20 minutes of a game, and then they have to 50-50 anyways. So it's like if you're losing, you might end up in that position anyway, so you might as well like actually try to do something. So for 100 Thieves, are there any redeeming qualities, like extremely good players or extremely bad players, and where would you rank them? So basically, in the ranking system that I have it as world class, above average, question mark, which is like just replacing average, below average, and horrible. So in your opinion, where would 100 Thieves go?
Average. Um, the players are not bad. Media, I think jungle is the most important position right now, and it has been for many years. Maybe closely followed by or eclipsed by mid lane at different points, but um, yeah, I don't think Meteos really has the mindset to be an elite jungler. He'll always be kind of average,
Yeah,
and he's very smart, and he's a very cerebral player. But I think he doesn't. He just doesn't. Command the presence that you need to command as a jungler. You need to really lead your team from that position, and I just don't think that's something he can do. Uh, I think Cody Sun is a player I coach myself. He's a solid player, but he's very much in that don't take risks camp.
sure.
I think he doesn't. You can compare him to the Cloud9 bot lane, and this is actually a great comparison because you see, his former support Vulcan in that bot lane. Um, the Cloud9 bot lane fully understand when they're supposed to win a matchup, when they're supposed to have push in a matchup, and they do it. And then you watch Cody stunt in the same matchups, and they're just happy to, farm waves under their turret and not really like exert too much pressure,
So
which is just problematic.
do you think that stunt is in some ways holding back Cody Sun? Like if Cody Sun,
Probably, yeah.
yeah, because that's kind of my
There's
read
a lot
on
of
it.
trust. Yeah, there's a lot of trust that has to be in place in bot lane, and if the two players, I know they're really good friends,
Yeah,
but I wonder, because I've had this conversation with so many AD carry players where it's like what in your perspective what is going wrong, and it's like, well, what am I supposed to do when my support is doing this? Like that, I've heard that so many times from so many different players. And I wonder if that's kind of going on a little bit, and if you don't trust your support to sort of do what he needs to do, and kind of follow your lead in the lane, then um, you're probably going to play more
yeah,
passively for sure.
yeah, definitely. Okay, so then for evil geniuses, where would you put evil geniuses? And actually, I'm gonna share my screen with you just in case you want to take a look at what I'm looking at, because right now I just have up my my sheet, like my spreadsheet, and then I also have the the still from the video of the LCS from the VOD where it shows like their champions and stuff
Sure.
like that. We're not going to break down every draft, but just as a background, like if you want to talk about any of the champions, and I'll probably cut this specific part out. Uh, but yeah, so back on evil geniuses,
Right.
where do you think they rank?
Uh, you're asking me about evil geniuses, where they rank?
Yeah,
So I would put EG probably second for sure.
second
I
in the
think they're
league.
going to be clear. Yeah, they're going to be clear second place. Maybe challenging for first place, but I'm not really holding my breath. I think Cloud9 have a really strong lock on that, barring some kind of internal disaster.
Yeah.
Um,
So are you just intentionally copying me, or is this just an accident.
Well, maybe you just had it right in the first place. We'll put it that way.
That's a very good point. Very good point. All right, next game. Next two teams, I should say, Cloud9 and FlyQuest. So we were just talking about, or you were just talking about C9 and how you think they have a death grip on North America right now. So can you kind of explain why, or what makes C9 so successful?
Yeah, I think C9 get it, and that's kind of the way. It's kind of like so the way to win early game, which is what Cloud9 does virtually every single game, is you have to play for through your jungler. Uh, Most people when they play the game of League of Legends themselves and they like queue up for top lane, and they expect their jungler to come and help them win. You know,
Yeah.
they sort of see the jungler as their servant, but that is absolutely not the best way. You top laners and supports and mid laners exist to uh, empower their jungler to do what he wants.
Yeah.
Um, because jungle is much more punishing when you sort of lose out. Like if you think about it, if both top laners are both just farming, then they both end up with the same gold. But a jungler, if they spend the time to go somewhere, like to say a scuttle crab or something, and then that's taken away from them, then they wasted all that time and they get 0, and the other guy gets a lot. So it's extremely punishing. The snowball is very fast in the jungle matchups, and I think Cloud9 get this. You can look at all their mid picks. I mean, Niski. People talk about Niski Blabber as being like a great 2v2, but you can just see from the draft that Cloud9 tries to play this way. They give Blabber good jungle matchups all the time. They give Niski champions that just auto push early in the game, so he's or have
Available. Yeah.
globals. Yeah, so he's always available to basically let Blabber do what Blabber wants to do. And Blabber is also a very extremely smart player. I actually met him for the first time at Scouting Grounds, which is a league that Riot puts on in North America where they bring in like young players, 16, 17, 18 years old, um, to sort of like hang out at the studio and play a little mini tournament and sort of experience what it's like to be a pro player to see if they want to do it. And that's where I met Blabber. He was too young. His parents literally wouldn't let him be a pro player, but they did let him go to Scouting Grounds. And he was just like he struck you as just like a prodigy.
Yeah,
You
he
know,
was what,
just
like
like
14,
Jordan.
15, 16 at that point, right? That was like 3 years ago or something.
Yeah, I think he was maybe 16. Um, but just really smart. He was like a competitive badminton player or something, also with extremely successful.
That's funny.
Uh, of course, like brilliant grades. So just an exceptional young guy. And so if you give him, if you draft around his ability just to take over, then that's what he's gonna do.
So,
And I think Cloud9 get that. And to be fair, I think other teams also understand this, but they don't have the players to make it happen reliably every time. Cloud9 also have some, so you watch their games. Their lanes are always pushing because their players are confident enough in their abilities to not only win the lane 2v2 or 1v1, but also to escape alive if the enemy jungler like shows up. They sort of ignore the traditional rules, like, oh, if you don't know where the jungler is, then don't push, right?
yeah.
Well, they do it anyway.
Yeah.
They say, come at me, bro.
Yeah, it's like if me being in a dangerous position means that the jungler might come and kill me, but all three of our lanes are doing it, then they can only do it to one of us. And that means we're
Yeah,
going to get an advantage in two lanes and we might die in the other one.
yeah, it puts a lot of stress on the enemy jungler,
Yeah.
and
Everybody's crying to the
that's a good.
jungler for help. Yeah, never good.
Yeah.
So
So,
so you think C9's
yeah,
one
right.
and
EG2. I think EG2 also understand this, and they try to draft around it. I think in the game you're looking at right now, the E9, or sorry, the one before this, the EG 100 Thieves game.
yeah,
I think EG actually messed up that draft, and they should have lost that game, like in a theoretical standpoint, but they just played better.
sure. So let's
You look at their game too this week, you'll see a draft that fits much more that paradigm.
yeah. So I guess the two questions that I have before we move away from C9 is one, do you think that uh Niski looks good because of Blabber, or Blabber looks good because of Niski? Like, do you see any correlation between that? Because personally, I think Niski's pretty overrated. I think there are at least 2 to 3 mid laners in the LCS that are just as good, if not better, than him, and I think that his success is largely should largely be credited to Blabber.
I would not agree. I think Niski is a very good mid laner. I think if other mid laners were better, then you would see him being punished more for the champions he plays and the play style that he has. Uh, but they can't because he's pretty good. Um, and yeah, I think he's easily he's absolutely for sure top 3 in NA and definitely a contender for number 1.
Yeah. Okay. And then my second question for Cloud9, because like I said before, my top tier in the rankings is world class. So do you think that C9 is world class? And if they are world class, do they have a chance to win the world championship? And where would you rank them, if you've put any thought into that?
I mean, that's always difficult, especially because we didn't get to see them at MSI. Uh, I think anyone who comes out and tries to say that a North American team is world class is just like auto-inting. We just can't. We're just not allowed to say that until we
Until
do
it
something,
happens.
until we do anything of any value on the international stage. And I'm hopeful that C9 have found uh, you know, found that sort of magic mix in NA, but we saw TL just be just as dominant last year and the year before even, and completely flop internationally. Now C9 as an organization have a much better track record uh,
Internationally,
internationally than
yeah.
most other NA teams. And for that, I that gives me a little extra hope, but I'm not really, um, I'm not like too up.
Yeah.
I
So
think the Chinese teams and I think most of the Chinese teams that will be at Worlds, some of the Korean teams, maybe one of the LEC teams, will all just be like light years ahead of NA.
yeah, I posted this question to people yesterday when I like posted my video, and I said, who would you consider the top 5 teams in the world right now? And like I didn't lead them at all to say like what region or anything like that. And I think 3 of them put Cloud9 in their top 5 out of 6. And
Yeah.
I have C9 in the world class tier because if I didn't, I would have my house would probably be burned down by angry people. I think they're the only ones that have a chance at being world class, and that's kind of why I have them here. I do actually think that EG is pretty close. It'll be interesting to see how they play on an international stage if they get that opportunity. But that's good enough for C9. So let's go to FlyQuest. Can you
He's
hear?
still there.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, he's kind of cutting in and out sometimes. I think might be having some lag, but you're good now.
Okay. Well, I think all that recorded. So we're on FlyQuest now. What do you think about the FlyQuest?
Sure, yeah, I think FlyQuest are an interesting team for sure. They've got some very sort of like break the mold players. I would say that for sure about Power of Evil. Santorin. Uh, it kind of gives them an interesting style. I don't think it's the best style a team can have, but they seem to make it work sometimes. But I don't think they're going to do nearly as well this split as they did last split. Um, you know, I think I, Solo is a good player for sure, and definitely a massive upgrade from Viper. He has that. He definitely has the sort of like I need to dominate my lane attitude um, that top laners need and that all the best top laners in the world have. And it's kind of lacking in most North American top laners. So that's where I think he finally had a team where he was able to show that um, when he came onto FlyQuest last split
Mm-hmm.
or like got promoted. So I'm excited to see like what's next for him and if he can keep that momentum going forward. But I like knowing him personally, having coached him on Clutch. He's a really interesting guy. Really smart, really like easy to talk to out of game. Uh, goes to great lengths to sort of enrich himself beyond the game. He's not this sort of like fat nerd who plays League all day. He, you know, he, he like reads all the time. He pretty like intellectual. But I think he also has like a huge ego,
Yeah,
and if and I think like this his next challenge psychologically is going to be not letting the success he had from Spring Split and sort of the accolades that were given him by most analysts to get to his head and cause him to get complacent. I
yeah,
think if he keeps his head down, he'll be good. And if they can keep doing that as a team and empowering him, um, I think they can do some things. But uh, I think the bot lane is really weak on FlyQuest, and I think the mid lane is like is kind of a wild card, and is fundamentally a good player, but just has the wrong read on the game. He's one of those players who sees kind of like, well, I mean, he's different from Pearson in a lot of ways, but in this sense, he's similar in that I think he sort of sees the rest of the team's existence as being there to empower him.
yeah. So if you took Power of Evil and put him on Cloud9, do you think they'd be as good as they are with Niski?
No, absolutely not. He would be an awful fit, I think.
Hmm,
Yeah.
interesting. So where would you rank FlyQuest?
I would put FlyQuest probably fourth or fifth, in middle of the pack.
Ooh, you're cheating again. All right, so far we're basically four for
That's
four.
a pretty large middle of the pack you got there, so it's gonna be hard to
Yeah, these guys. I think
that wrong.
I think most of these teams are pretty hard to differentiate between right now, just because of reasons. Next up,
Yeah.
Evil Geniuses and CLG, and anybody who watched one of like my NALCS videos from this week know how horrible I think this CLG draft was. Uh, it was kind of shocking the way that they went about this. But what do you think about CLG since we've already talked about EG? And if there's any draft stuff you want to talk about, you can talk about it here because I know you said something about draft in the last EG section.
Yeah, this draft's a lot better. I think it kind of makes more sense. They have some very clear counter picks. They have a lot of picks that um, are going to enable the Trundle to do his job, which in this case is to outfarm a Nidalee to make her just totally useless. So I like what they did here. Uh, CLG I think are just really bad. I think their bot lane is like probably bottom tier in the league. You can see that this game. I mean, they got so outclassed this game by Bang and Zeyzal.
Yeah,
Uh, this is a matchup that we've seen a lot in China, right? We've seen a lot in every region, and it never goes like this. I think Jizuke, I believe he won MVP of the week.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, and you can see a lot of that this game. He's just all over the map. He's playing what theoretically should be a difficult matchup in TF versus Cassiopeia, um, but he's just dodging every Q. He's like spacing really well and just pushing lane and then moving to help the Trundle or help the rest of the team.
yeah.
And sort
Juzuke
of
is
understands what he
hilarious.
does. Yeah, he's a good player for sure. And yeah, it just outclassed CLG in every lane. So I think CLG, I think Ruin is a good player, but he probably feels a little too much weight on his shoulders with this team. With the bot lane being bad, with Pobelter being kind of like a do nothing player,
So
and
you would say that
Wiggly,
Pole Belter's kind of in the Bjergsen Power of Evil mold?
yeah, but worse.
Yeah,
At
talent
least
wise,
they
yeah,
have, yeah, at least they have like pretty strong team fighting and mechanics. But Pobelter, yeah, I think it's pretty rare for Pobelter to have like that pop off moment
yeah,
in that can sort of win a game. Um, he kind of just does his job, sort of a role player, I guess.
yeah,
So, uh, yeah, I think CLG are near the bottom, and you see the strengths of Evil Geniuses for sure show in this game.
Yeah.
Perfect game, dominant in every lane. Um, and I would even say like if your listeners want to watch this game and just watch the first like 5-6 minutes all the way to the first death, which was the Nidalee, I believe. You see exactly what I'm talking about. You see Evil Genius is predicting what Wiggly wants to do on this Nidalee, and then you see the solo lanes just like ditching waves that most players wouldn't ditch to just like get in position ahead of time to punish the Nidalee,
Yeah.
and that one kill just ended the game right there. So,
Yeah.
yeah, good stuff from them.
So from a theory point of view, do you think that this is do you think that a an underdog like CLG when they're playing against one of the presumably best teams in North America, what do you think about them playing a poke composition against a team that is significantly better than them? Do you think that's a bad idea in general?
It's hard to say. I guess probably. Um, because there's it, but that's the thing. If you know a team is better than you, it's kind of a difficult thing. You 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 can break it down to simpler terms. Do you want to play lanes that push early, that empower, like play a jungler that technically should, be able to pressure the enemy jungler? Do you want to play lanes that, exert kill pressure, and uh, get priority and play the game that everyone else is playing? If your players aren't at the caliber to actually do that, because if you watch this game, like they have the champions to do that, but they don't.
Yeah.
And so should you do that? You should probably try, right? If it's early in the split, you should probably at least start trying and try to get better at doing it. Or you could go the 100 Thieves route and just draft the best 5v5 team comp you can and hope that you just win a team fight after losing all your turrets in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, my whole issue with CLG playing a poke comp is like uh I'm sure most people watching probably don't understand this, but it's like when you're a poke composition, if you fall behind, the game is over. Now, in general, when you fall behind, it feels bad and it does decrease your chances of winning the game a lot. But when you're a poke comp and you fall behind, you're dead. There's nothing you can do, and the other team is just gonna roll over you, and you're gonna look like idiots on stage. So, where would you rank CLG? You said bottom. So would you
Yeah,
say that?
but like I'd say bottom three is kind of like pretty clear,
Yeah,
and probably pretty even. Maybe they'll distinguish themselves as the split goes on, but I'd put Immortals, Dignitas, and CLG in the.
all right, now you're just showing off. I think you just took a screenshot of this and then just ran it back at me. But yeah, I agree with you. I think CLG's down bottom three. Obviously, I think most people do. We're not trying to be uh,
Yeah, it's pretty
contrarians
easy.
here.
You'd be hard pressed to find someone. You'd be hard pressed to find someone who disagrees. I think.
Yeah. So then the next match was TSM and Team Liquid. So whichever team you want to talk about first, go for it.
Yeah. So a lot of people obviously are very excited for TSM picking up Double Lift, playing Speaker in the jungle. I think this team to me epitomizes teams that don't get it, and I don't know how or why it keeps happening with different rosters and different coaching staffs over and over, but this team just doesn't understand like the game at a fundamental level, I think. And or they prioritize the wrong things. For some reason, they still think that certain like so when you're a jungler in this game, you can kind of see it like you're playing a board game where you have it like a turn and the enemy jungler has a turn. You guys kind of go at the same time and you're moving your piece around the map. And every time you like move into a different hex on the map, like they move somewhere else. And you know, i- for like strategists have figured out this game that there's things you do with those moves, and there's things you don't do. And TSM still do the things you don't do, and they still think it's good. That's what's so perplexing. So, um, yeah, I don't think double lift is going to really be the change that they need. I think, um, I think they're all still really good players fundamentally. I think Brogan played is better than most people think he is.
Yeah.
I think Bjergsen is still like a good player, even if he kind of sees the game the wrong way. I think Doublelift is for sure still one of the best AD carries in North America ever. Biofrost is not bad. Probably even good, and definitely has like pop off moments himself. And Spica was the other jungler who I met at Scouting Grounds the same year as Blabber, who I actually thought was better than Blabber at the time. I mean, Spica is very similar, in my mind, a very similar type of player. But it's been years since that, so I'm not sure what he sort of evolved into. But really smart young guy, uh, absolutely dominant when he plays solo queue in North America, and really like good intuition for how to just win the game as a jungler. But we'll see if his team enables him to do that.
Sure.
I'm not confident. I think you've got a lot of really strong personalities on this team that all want to carry, are all demanding resources, and it ends up looking kind of like a mess. And I think we saw some of that in their match versus Team Liquid. Um, but I think also there's not a lot to tell because I think they made just some really like weird fundamental mistakes, and their draft was also pretty like wonky.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to really see, and I think TSM, it's definitely possible for them to turn it around and just be dominant. Something could just click and they start playing. They could have some kind of internal dialogue that moves them in the right direction, for sure. But I think it's going to be difficult.
Yeah. So,
Uh,
do you want to go over TL before you rank both of them, or do you want to go
uh,
TSM first?
sh- sure, yeah, I can do TL too, and I think TL. I don't know, it's hard to say. This one's really hard to say. I think Core JJ is probably one of the best players ever in NA. Granted, he's a Korean import, but that has ever competed in North
granted, he's
America.
granted he's an import after winning a world championship.
Yeah, yeah, he's ridiculously good at support. Um, he has sort of an encyclopedic knowledge of lane matchups. He's extremely um, sort of logic based in the way he plays the game. Uh, the Whenever you talk to a pro player and you sort of ask them like, well, why did you do this or why did you do that in the game? Uh, some players they can't really like explain it to you,
Sure.
and then there's players like Corey JJ who can break it down to you like you're reading like code. Like it's all if then statements. Like, well, I have this rune, he has that rune. He moved here, so I moved here, and then he did this, so I did this, and then I knew that because this guy was over here, I could do that. It's just very, very well thought out, logical um, player, and that makes him very dominant in the game and finds opportunities very easily. So I think that he's for sure a huge part of TL's like success. Um, I think Impact is always solid. Definitely has like his weaknesses, but he's solid. I think Jensen also similar to Impact, very solid, but has his weaknesses.
Yeah.
Kind of his own worst enemy type player, I think, in terms of his mindset and the champions that he plays. Like I think he's got some weird opinions on that, but um, yeah, it'll be interesting. TLs for me are a bit of like a wild card right now. I think, and I think Tactical is really good. Also, I think Tactical Core JJ is a great fit. Um, I think he's extremely receptive to basically being taught everything there is to be taught
Sure.
by Core JJ, and having a young, mechanically talented player uh, sort of paired up with a veteran world champion is just absolutely a formula for success. So I think they're going to do really well in bot lane.
Do you
It's
think it's better tactical? Do you think tactical plus core JJ will be better than double lift core JJ?
in the long term, probably. I think I'm gonna go ahead and say that I think if you were to like look at Double Lift before he played with Core JJ and after, it's two different people. But I think Double Lift would never probably admit that, or maybe he would. Actually, I don't know. But um, yeah, I think he got infinitely better after playing with Core JJ. But maybe he wants to think he was always good. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. But
Yeah.
tactical is just like a sponge. He's gonna soak it all up, and I think that'll be good.
Sure. So what do you think? Who should be higher rated, TL or TSM?
I think TL. Um, but TL are kind of like a question mark for me. So, but I would definitely rate TL higher than TSM right now,
Sure.
and in terms of my expectations for the split. But
So
I think it could change for sure.
so before I bring up this the spreadsheet, so you're saying that TL and TSM are basically both wild cards and they're both question marks. And do you think either of them will um, kind of compete with EG? Like, do you think either of these teams have that in them to like be up on the EG or C9 level?
Just look at both of these rosters, right? There's so much international experience, veteran talent, just like piled into these teams, and as well as like young, energetic, wanting to prove themselves players as like paired with those veterans, like on both sides. I
Mm-hmm.
think um you can't you can never really ignore, well, you can, but I think in this case you just can't ignore the caliber of players on these teams. So the question is, are they going to be able to overcome uh the issues that that's also going to pose within the team culturally, and uh yeah. So will they surpass EG? I think it's possible, absolutely. I think they kind of have to find their groove. I think they have to sort of change the way. I think TSM for sure has to change the way they play the game and view the game, and I think Liquid have to just basically be on. I think they're especially their solo laners. I think if their solo laners are uh, engaged, motivated, and feeling good about the team, they're gonna play really well, and they can for sure uh, take it to EG. I don't think they'll
Interesting.
take it to C9, but
So just looking back at the spreadsheet again. So right now we have C9, EG, TL, TSM, and FlyQuest. Do you have an opinion on those two teams against one another,
I would
or do you
I
think it's
would
basically
put
close?
I would put TSM over FlyQuest for sure. I think the bot diff is too high.
Yeah, I am. I've been on record saying I think Wild Turtle is probably just brain dead and doesn't actually understand what's going on, but he's always like running around and doing stuff. Because all I remember, well, not all I remember, the main things that I remember about Wild Turtle are all of the times on TSM when he would be in a random place and die for absolutely no reason, and then like cost his team a game. Whenever TSM lost like a couple years ago, when he was on their team, you could like look at a Wild Turtle moment from that game and be like, well, how can they possibly win with this guy running around on their team? Uh, so yeah, I'm kind of a Wild Turtle hater in terms of play, not as a person. I don't think he's a bad person or anything. But last team,
Person.
or did we talk about Dig
No,
yet? We didn't talk about Dig and we didn't talk about Golden Guardians. So perfect game, Dig and Golden Guardians.
correct.
Who do you want first? Are you breaking up again?
Yeah, you kind of cut out for a while.
All right. Dig and Golden Guardians. Who do you want to talk about first?
Golden Guardians, I think, are definitely an interesting team. I think they're gonna do better for sure this split with Demonte. Um, I think I think Demonte's time with Lyra, as miserable as it was for him at times, it taught him a lot of good things about the game. And what a lot of people forget is that Niski and Lyra were on a team together on Envy,
Yeah.
but like the first time both of them came to North America, and the in 2017, and they were very successful
Mm-hmm.
together. And if you actually were to, I don't know if you would say this anymore, but at least in 2018, 2019 uh like Niski actually said that everything he knows about the game he learned from Lyra.
Yeah, I feel like I have heard
Uh
that before. Um,
y-
yeah.
yeah, and I think Tanner uh
These
just
people
didn't
don't know
have
that you coached Tanner, by the way. So
oh, okay,
yeah,
so I did
McScrag
coach
coached
Demonte.
Demonte on Clutch Gaming.
Yeah. I think he's yeah, I think he wants so much more than anything else to just prove himself. He wants to be that shining light that NA has been waiting for in terms of NA mid laners, right? I mean, that's been a meme in League of Legends for 10 years,
Yeah.
is that North America does not produce good mid laners. Um, every other region does. And he really, and in one way, it's a good thing because he really holds himself to that expectation. He wants it so badly that he pushes himself, but at the same time, I think it also he also has like the wrong idea of like how to do that, right? He wants to be like a faker who solo kills people and carries games, but um like an old school faker, I should say,
Yeah, yeah,
but not really do his job as a mid laner. So uh that's sort of what his problem was on Clutch Gaming, I think. And I think that's probably why Dignitas didn't pick him up um as their mid laner for 2020. But I think, he obviously has had many opportunities since Clutch to sort of reevaluate and change and reflect on all that. So maybe he's better, and I think he probably is. Uh, and I could see some of that in the early Golden Guardians games. He's definitely trying to play more through his jungler, and I think from what I heard in like an interview, I guess him and Closer are pretty good friends, and Closer actually wanted him on the team.
yeah. That's what I heard too.
So
They said that on the broadcast, I think, um,
yeah,
on
I think
Sunday.
that's already a good situation. Uh, Tanner's also, well, I should say, Demonte is also like a very emotional player, and it's really important for him that he's like buds with his teammates. Like
Yeah.
that's extremely important to him, and he's a great guy. He's a really outgoing, fun to talk to, like constantly making jokes and making everyone laugh type of guy.
Hmm.
Um, so like yeah, he needs feedback from the team that that's like a good thing, and I think on this team he'll find it for sure because they're just the kind of that team that has like the friendship vibe to
Yeah.
me. Um, so yeah, good things I think for Golden Guardians to split. Probably not a championship, obviously, but um, I think better than last split and definitely like against expectations or maybe surprising to some people. I think people who follow the game very closely probably won't be surprised much by Golden Guardians. I think most people understand that they'll do pretty well.
Yeah,
But
it's not like before last season when everyone was saying like this team is going to be the
yeah,
worst team by far. What a horrible roster, because like they proved themselves. Well, they kind of proved themselves last split with like being able to actually compete, even though last split was really weird. Like everybody was beating everybody. Uh,
hmm
so so where would you rank them relative to the other teams that we have ranked so far?
uh, yeah, that's a good question. I think they'll probably outrank FlyQuest.
That was going to be my
Uh,
question. Yeah, because
yeah,
I do think that there's the upside there from Golden Guardians, but I feel like I don't know if I'm being too optimistic about it because I'm like a huge Power of Evil fan, and I think that specifically on like this patch with like Oriana being really strong and popular, I think that it's going to be an important contested pick, and then as we move more into like a team fight meta, like what typically happens before Worlds, I think that that probably also plays into his hand. I feel like Golden Guardians might be on the opposite side of that, where the patches and the meta kind of moves away from them or is starting to move away from them. So that's kind of why I'm afraid. But I do think that they have the upside. So I agree. I have them in a similar spot. I have them um, in the question mark tier. I do think they're better than 100 Thieves, and I think specifically FlyQuest, TSM, TL, like how far up into that echelon of teams can they kind of get? That's where I am right now.
don't think they'll ever pass TLTSM. I mean, maybe they'll get some upset wins, but I don't think they'll ever beat them in a best of five. Excuse me, because I just think their players just like as good as they are, their players are just not that good.
Yeah,
I mean, you look at their bot lane FBI, I think FBI is like a pretty good player for sure. But I still don't know what to think about who he has to support. Um,
yeah, me too. Yeah,
and I think um, I think Closer is insanely good. But Demonte, like for all the things, like the good things I said about him, he's just not a great mid laner mechanically. Uh, he can lose lane very easily if he just like loses focus for even just a second. Um, and cause like huge headaches for his team. And I think Haunter is like definitely top five, top laners in NA, probably or almost certainly, yeah. But I think they'll just get outclassed on like a player to player level in a best of series versus TLTSM. I think FlyQuest they can definitely beat. 100 Thieves they can definitely beat. Um, So yeah, I would put them just above FlyQuest probably.
Yeah, because I think with Golden Guardians, if they had this roster from like 10.6 to 10.12, or from 10.6 to 10.11, like so the end of last season into this season, I think they would have performed a little bit better at the end of last split, and then people would probably have a really good opinion of them going into this split, and then they'd kind of disappoint. But I think that unrealized potential that like we can kind of see here on Golden Guardians makes me want to like them more than I probably should. Because I do think the meta's kind of going that direction, which scares me. So for Dignitas, what do you think about Dig?
I think they're pretty bad. I think they got a lot of players on their team who also don't get it. Um, I I would say first and foremost Froggen and Aframu.
Yeah,
Um, I would say Viper is just not a high enough caliber player to even be in the LCS. I was really high on him when he was playing in Academy, because he was extremely dominant in 2018 Academy, like versus all the other top laners, just like not even close.
hmm.
So I was really optimistic when he came into LCS, but I don't know what happened. But he just didn't show up for the most part. And I mean, he had some games where he did, but not consistently enough. And uh, yeah, so that was kind of a disappointment. But I don't think he's got what it takes. I think Acadian, just unfortunately for that guy, I love that guy, but um, I think he just had too much time on TSM, and I know that's like a meme, but I think it's actually true. I think he's sort of been uh,
TSMified.
taught the wrong, yeah, he's been taught the wrong way to play the game as a jungler, and I think he probably just doesn't have. I think he's a little hot and cold in terms of his like motivation and the amount of effort he puts into being the best. Um, yeah, he'll go on like sprees of playing solo queue and like really really trying, and then droughts, which is just never good for a player.
Yeah,
Um, and then yeah, I think the team is just pretty bad all around.
you never want
I'm
that to
excited
be.
for.
What's that?
Sorry. Sorry. I should say I'm excited for what we'll see from Johnson in the future, and I hope he gets put into a good situation.
Yeah,
Um, but I think being a young support or young like up and coming AD carry player and getting put in a lane with Aframu is just a death sentence. So I'm a little sad about that. But
yeah. So what I was gonna ask is, so in the beginning of last split, I was really high on Dignitas. I thought that they could kind of like play through Hooney, and like in the beginning of the split, they actually did it. Where like he was playing Mordekaiser, and would sometimes it would be kind of like it would look pretty bad, but he was always able to fulfill his role and like be very impactful. And then like in playing through Hooney, they actually let Johnson kind of carry some of the games because there would be so much attention on Hooney. So, do you think that um, Hooney leaving, if Hooney didn't leave, do you think this team would have a chance to compete with the upper echelon teams? Like maybe not for a championship, but just in general.
yeah, I think any team with Hooney can definitely do that. He's such a wild card player, but he's really really good.
Yeah,
Uh, in the amount and like doing what I think needs to be done, which is like put out pressure.
yeah,
So, um, yeah, if if they had Hooney, uh, I think it would be possible. But I'm gonna go ahead and just know, like knowing Hooney and him being a player that I coached as well, uh, and knowing I haven't coached Aframu or Froggen, but I kind of know a lot about them. I would say that there was probably a lot of conflict there. I
sure.
think in the same way that Acadian was like TSMified, I think Aframu was 100 Thievesified. Or more so, I think Aframu was a big part of founding that 100 Thieves culture. So he's definitely brought that philosophy to Dignitas, and that would for sure clash with the way Huni wants to play the game.
Yeah. So okay, so then obviously you think Dignitas is one of the three worst teams, like you said before. So
Yeah.
we basically have C9, EG, TLTSM, which is relatively close, but You're saying TL. Then we have TSM. You said Golden Guardians above FlyQuest, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think this would be fair if we did like TL TSM basically the same, but pretty much a question mark, and then 100 Thieves underneath Golden Guardians and FlyQuest, and then the rest of it like this? I think this is broken up pretty fairly. I think there are arguments to be made both ways here.
Yeah, I think maybe we're being a little unfair to 100 Thieves. I think they like, as much as I don't like their playstyle, I think they still have the ability to take game teams like FlyQuest, GG, and so I think they probably belong in the same tier.
Yeah. Okay. So before we go, let's take a look at next week's games. So do you pay much attention to like betting lines and stuff like that?
No.
Okay. So basically, for every single one of these games, I'm going to ask you who you think the favorite will be. And then I'll write that all down. And I will check how close you were to who the favorite is and like how big of a favorite they are. So Golden Guardians against CLG. What do you think?
You know what? Before I answer, it's actually interesting. We did do this because the general manager at Clutch, Sebastian Park, he was really big into betting and would always follow like the Vegas odds and stuff for.
Sounds like
for
my
games.
kind of guy.
Yeah, no, he also went to Yale for grad school, by the way.
Oh, what a loser!
Right?
Horrible.
But no, he's a good guy. He's a good guy and really smart. And what he would do for us as like the coaching staff, the analytical staff, and also like all the managers, is we would do every split like a pool where we had to do this, where we'd have to like bet on the games, and then we kept track of like basically how much virtual money everyone had at the end.
That's funny.
Yeah, and a lot of us coaches and analysts figured out very early on that when if you actually want to win money, when you're being asked this question, the correct answer is almost certainly never who is the better team, but it has a lot more to do with like the odds, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
finding the value in the odds, yeah, that's kind of something I go through all the time on like when I'm breaking down the slate for the next day. I always say like, I think this team should be the favorite, but this team is undervalued to where they should be, like where their actual winning chances are. So I'm gonna pick the underdog, and when the underdog pays off, you look like you just look better than when you call it a favorite that wins. So CLG Golden Guardians, what do you think?
So this is who's gonna win?
Who's the favorite? Who's the favorite going to be?
Who's the favorite? Okay. Golden Guardians probably.
Okay.
Like maybe 60-40, 70-30, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I think. Okay, so I don't know if you like would get what the what that basically implies. So if you're saying it's 60-40, you would have to bet $140 to win 100. And
right.
If you said it was 70, you'd have to bet 230 to win 100. So like it's a huge difference, you know? And
right.
I think that in terms of public perception, I think that 70-30 is probably closer to what everyone's going to say for this matchup. So I'll just put down MCSCRAG. You want to go 60 or 70? What do you think?
I'll go 70-30.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, Immortals TSM.
Yeah, that one for me is like 90-10.
90-10. Oh my god. You know, I think that might actually be like pretty close. My theory for betting, just having been like betting on this stuff for a pretty long time, I think that no team should be bet on if they're over like 70 to 80%, because just risking that much money for to be heartbroken like in that situation is just, it's crazy. Like if TSM is minus $500 or something to win $100, like you're just asking to get crushed by the sports book. So yeah, like 80% would be minus 506. So you'd have to risk, it would be like a 20% return on your money, which like sure,
right,
like that does kind of sound good, but for a bet where you're risking $500 and you could like theoretically get nothing back. It's not like you're building equity in something. So you want to say
Right.
90-10, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because like that's always the tough part about betting in one-offs is like even if you feel like it's 90-10, convincing yourself to bet 90-10 is like it's just so tough. Team
But
Liquid.
I guess I won't say 90-10 lightly. Immortals are so bad. Like we didn't even talk about this team, right? That's how bad they are. I think in my mind there's no universe where this happens. And you can't really I guess I probably can't say 100%,
Yeah,
but if I
exactly.
could
Yeah,
I would.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't talk about them. That's hilarious. Not even worth it. I have them in the horrible tier. They're the worst team by far. Absolutely pitiful. It's really really sad. TL versus 100 Thieves. Who do you think is the favorite?
I think TL are the favorite.
And what do you think the betting line's going to open at?
Yeah, I think it's got to be 70-30. I mean, I get that's a big that means a lot more than it sounds like, but
Yeah. Do you think
I
that
think
do you think that North America in general is like extremely uh like the LCS fans are extremely reactionary and like overreact to everything? Because I feel like they're
but that's fans in every sport, right?
I think,
I
but
think
I mean in North American LCS, it's so overreactive, and I think part of it's because it's like it's a young community that doesn't necessarily
maybe yeah.
have like a betting background, so it's like and it's such a hive mind. Like League of Legends itself is a hive mind, you know, where like the meta's dictated that way. The popular streamers, popular champions, popular teams. It's just all a popularity contest in North America.
Yeah.
That's what always scares me about teams like this. So you got TL 70-30. TSM FlyQuest, what do you think?
Uh, this is a tough one. I think probably TSM like 55-45. I think this will be like a test for them for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Um, yeah, and it'll probably define a lot of their expectations for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
This game.
What I see, like, this is the kind of thing where I hope that TSM looks bad against Immortals and like barely wins, so that the line is very close between FlyQuest and TSM, and people will say like, "Oh, FlyQuest, they came in second last split. Like, look at how they've played so far this season." And then it's like, well, you know, the two teams still have to play each other, and like who's more talented and like who fits on this patch better, who's been drafting better, stuff like that. So I think 55-45 is probably right. Like that's what I would list it as, but I think that the sports book will probably favor TSM a little bit more just because they're so public.
Yeah.
But that's good enough for what we're looking for. C9 against Evil Geniuses. This is the match of the week. I can't wait. This is going to be a great match.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good match, but I think C9 will take it pretty handily. I guess my view on it is like I just think they'll have a better plan. I think they have better players in most of the positions, and Evil Geniuses are gonna kind of have to like really wildcard this one.
Yeah. So what do you think?
Like something terrible is gonna have to happen early in the game for Cloud9, for them to lose. I think so. Yeah, I'll put this, but I get these are the top two teams. I mean, this is where my inexperience with like betting probably would show, but as confident as I am in Cloud9 versus EG, I don't think I could actually say like 70-30. I think I'd still probably go like 60-40.
Sure. I think that, you know, this is
Because like I myself wouldn't bet more than that.
Yeah.
Because like I think there definitely is room for an upset.
Yeah, it's a very interesting spot. And once we get all these numbers down, I'll actually check to see if they're out, but I don't think they are. So Dig CLG, two of the worst teams around. Super excited.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. I don't care. CLG probably, I guess, 60-40.
Yeah, it's a tough one to get excited about. EGTL.
This will be an interesting game for sure. I think probably it's almost certainly EG favored. Probably 60-40 though. I think TL has some good players on it still, and can definitely win.
Yeah, that's an interesting game because I think if C9 completely dominates EG, then I could see TL becoming the favorite in this matchup, and if EG ends up beating Cloud9, I think EG comes into the game as the favorite. I think that's a pretty volatile one because they are pretty close. FlyQuest against Dignitas.
FlyQuest probably for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe like 70-30. I think I think they'll be.
Yeah,
You
most
gotta
likely.
keep in mind. I think FlyQuest are a team that depends a lot on women. Although in Spring Split they kind of proved that they weren't. But I think I need more evidence. So if they lose versus TSM, I think their chances to win versus Dig decrease substantially. But we'll see. They might prove me wrong. But yeah, I'll still say 70-30 because they're just a better team.
Yeah. All right. C9 Golden Guardians.
C9. Yeah, that's pretty easy.
Yeah. Rough. What number do you think?
Still like. I mean, I'd maybe like 70-30s, 80. Yeah, maybe 80-20 is a bit too much. I think Closer has the ability to really just. I think he has the ability to square up against Blabber, and if they enable him well in the draft to do that, it's possible, but not most of the time.
Yeah, stylistically, I
I
think
guess
it's
is
going
what
to
I'll
be a
say.
very interesting match because I do
Yeah.
agree with you that like Closer plus Demonte is probably like not in terms of talent, but in terms of style is closer to Blabber Niski than it is
Yeah.
to like Spica Bjergsen
Yeah.
or
Absolutely.
like a more quote unquote Korean kind of style.
Right.
So last up, 100 Thieves against Immortals. I think we know where that one's
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it'll be 100 Thieves. I don't think Immortals have enough in the tank to beat 100 Thieves at their
Yeah,
even if they were to pick like late game team comp, and if they pick like an early game to try and like snowball, not be able to execute on it. And 100 Thieves are masters at just giving up stuff around the map and then still winning the game.
yeah. So do you have a number for that one or no?
Oh, a number for this?
Yeah, what do you think?
Probably 70-30 again.
Yeah. All right.
I don't
So
know. I'm definitely not very good at the number thing.
I think you'll be
Yeah, we'll see.
surprised. I think you'll be surprised. So the numbers are actually out. So if you give me 1 second,
Oh, interesting.
I could actually do this pretty fast. And I'll show you on my sheet. Actually, let's do it like this. Because basically, it's just like there's a formula that you just plug in. So like I've already set that up. So you were right about Golden Guardians. They're minus 152, so that was 60, and then I'll bring this one over just so we can see everything. So they listed it at 60, you had it at 70, so you would have a 10% edge over the sports book. So like if you had a bankroll committed to doing this, like that would be a bet that you probably make. TSM against Immortals, you said minus 294. That's 75%. That means that the value is on the Immortal side. So same situation. You'd probably end up betting on Immortals even if you don't think it's that would be the decision you have to make is do I bet on Immortals or not? Because like you probably
Right.
wouldn't want to bet on TSM there. Team Liquid against 100 Thieves. Team Liquid is a minus 175 favorite. That's 64%. You had it at 70%. So 5 or 6%. That's getting close to like actionable range. But it depends on how comfortable you feel with that number that you assigned to it originally. TSM against FlyQuest. This one you were very close. 56%. Sorry, not 55. You lose. C9 C9 against EG. C9 is a minus 270 favorite. That's 73%. So if you think
That's surprising.
yeah,
Maybe.
yeah. So that's the kind of spot where like I'm gonna be on EG, like, and I knew that I would because C9 is so popular and thought of to be so good, because they are.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of spot you have to look for. CLG against Dig, 58%. You had it at 60, so you're pretty close. Evil Geniuses minus 270 against Team Liquid. What? Is that right? Wow. So that means Team Liquid has a good number there. Wait, did I do that right? Or did I look at the wrong one? I looked at the wrong one. Oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense. All right, yeah, minus 133.
Yeah, it's surprising.
That would be crazy. Oh, wait, so it was TL... No, EG, 57%. You had it at 60, so it's pretty close again. Probably a no bet. And it's tough when like you're betting to be disciplined and not make these bets. Like when it's relatively close, just to like gamble, you know, instead of betting with an edge. FlyQuest against Dignitas. You had it at 70. They have it at right about 70. C9 minus 769. Nice. 88%. You had it 75.
Wow.
So that's another one where you'd probably want to look at Golden Guardians.
Yeah. I mean, you like don't even lose money if you lose, right?
Well, you do, but it's like it's
Not
worth
very
the
much.
risk. It's worth the risk. Yeah.
Right. Because the return would be insane.
Yeah. Exactly. And then 100 Thieves Immortals minus 213. Put it in the wrong spot. That's a 68%. You had it at 70. So see, you're a lot closer than you thought on a lot of these.
I think that's interesting. We'll see though. Yeah, I'm kind of excited to watch now.
Nice. All right. Well, thanks for stopping by. We'll have to do this again. Maybe we'll do it once a week to look at this kind of stuff. But yeah, thanks again for stopping by.
Yeah, no problem. Talk to you later, Michael.
See ya.